Welcome to Blue Talks.
Wow, so I'm very excited to be here at the University of Alberta talking to you about OneNote. What a day, full of all kinds of speakers talking on business, life, and the universe. So much to learn and so much great stuff to know about. So I have one question for you. Are you taking notes? Hang on. This is why I brought my case up here. I've got paper for notes. Let's see. I've got little notebooks. Hang on. Got some napkins. How many of you guys have used that before? Oh, sticky notes. I got sticky notes. Just kidding. You don't need any of that stuff. That's what I'm here to talk to you about. I'm here to show you how you can use your technology, your computer, your phone, your tablet, to be your number one digital note-taking tool. I'm here to talk to you about OneNote for life. I take a breath here, sorry. So let me just say that as someone who's been teaching for 30 plus years, I know it's a long time, I have chosen this program really as my favorite one. OneNote's my favorite program, and it's actually why I wrote a book on it. So let's dive into it. I'm going to start with an obvious notes example, meeting notes. Have you gone to any meetings lately and taken any notes? Nobody's putting up their hands? That's okay. Well, I've been to a lot of meetings. I've been to meetings, and if you're like me, I like to capture all those important points that the presenter is making or those aha moments and make sure that I capture that somewhere so that I can refer to it afterwards. And I'll just tell you that as a treasurer of my local chamber, I end up at a lot of monthly meetings or actually a number of meetings throughout the month. And in those meetings, I take lots of notes. I get sent notes. I get sent agendas, lots of information coming back and forth. And by that regular monthly meeting, I need to gather it all together. So the best place for me to do that is within my OneNote. This is where I start my journey with my clients, is I help them create a meetings notebook. And so the meetings notebook, I tell them to use and set it up in such a way that you divide it in sections based on the meetings that you are having or attending, or the months of the year, whatever makes sense to you. And the pages in that notebook are the actual meetings themselves. Now you might be thinking, well, Connie, I got a computer. It's pretty simple to take notes on a computer, but it's more than that. When you have a meeting notebook page, you can share that with everybody that's attending the meeting. Let me say that again. You can share that notebook with everyone that's attending the meeting. So that means no email. Anybody want to get less emails? Yeah, I thought so. So you don't need to send emails about that meeting or anything about that meeting ever again to that group of people that you're meeting regularly. Wouldn't that be great? And there's another bonus here. Anything that I need, all my supporting documents for that meeting, I can have on my notebook page. So if there is a YouTube video we watch or a presentation that comes in that meeting, or maybe somebody has a Word document or a PDF, you can take that document and attach it into your meeting note page. Or you can actually put a link in your meeting notes page. So that means at the end of the day, everything you need for your meeting is in one place. Who doesn't want that? Now, let's consider another example here. Maybe some of you are thinking, I don't go to any meetings, Connie, but I want you to think about this scenario. One of my clients was all excited coming to me and holding her 4-inch black binder, all excited about the question she was going to ask. She asked me, "Can I use this for a OneNote notebook?" What did I say? Absolutely. All those binders on your shelves are your OneNote notebooks. If you have a binder for office procedures or policies, that's a OneNote notebook. Maybe you have a safety manual. That's a OneNote notebook. Even those project binders, those are your notebooks that are perfect to be sitting in OneNote. And the best part, share that binder with everybody else. They can access the information they need. Or if you want that binder just for yourself, that's okay too. If you're sharing it with them, they can also contribute to it. So the other big thing is, with that shared binder, that new notebook that you have, that you've transferred from your binder, you now can access that information anytime, anywhere. This binder is taking up less room for you. It's letting you maybe clear up some physical clutter that you might have around. So those binders, I want you to think of the dividers that you have in those binders are the sections that you would have in your notebook. The pages you have in those binders are the pages you have in your OneNote notebook. Now, OneNote isn't just for business or work. OneNote can be used in your personal or home life. I remember I was driving home one day thinking about what I was going to make for the Friday games night at my house, when I decided, I'll make that wonderful cheese dip. But as I was driving to the store and arrived there, I realized, I don't know what the ingredients are. And as I looked on the web to figure out the cheese dip, I found way too many examples of cheese dips and didn't know which one it was. And of course, no one was home to look at the recipe for me. So it was then and there in the parking lot of that grocery store that I decided I need a recipe notebook. In fact, that would be so great. Maybe, heck, I can probably even clear out one of my cupboards, my recipe cupboard, make a notebook for all my favorite recipes. Well, I've evolved that now to include those different recipe cards. I don't know if any of you are old enough to have those, but I had some recipe cards handed down to me over the years. They were getting quite tattered and old looking. So I just took a picture of them. I didn't have to retype them or rewrite them. I just took a picture and put it into my notebook. And speaking of pictures, I like to take pictures of my kids and my husband cooking, so I add those to the notebook pages. Who knew a recipe notebook could be a scrapbook of sorts? I want you to think of OneNote as that place for you to record, document, or retrieve information. Replace the physical clutter and retrieve information in a new way. Now, there's a lot of other reasons I use OneNote. And one of the biggest ones is I like to remember stuff or research stuff. So for this speech today, I use OneNote to help me brainstorm ideas. I jotted down all the initial thoughts that I had. And of course, I put in all the different revisions of this speech in my OneNote notebook. Because I teach so many different programs, aside from OneNote, I teach SharePoint and Teams, Excel, all kinds of different programs. So I need to keep up to date on technology. So I have a technology or a programs notebook. And in that notebook, I divide up the sections based on every program I teach. And as I find tips, or I think of tips, or if I find an article about that program, I put that into that section of the notebook. It helps me keep up to date. Aside from that, I actually use OneNote a lot personally to remember or record stuff. As I became a caregiver to my parents, I found myself at a lot of medical appointments with them. So the first time I took my mom to that specialist, the doctor asked her, "What medication are you on?" She then turned to me as if to say, "You tell them, Connie." Well, I learned my lesson that day. I need a medication list in my OneNote notebook for my parents, and also any medical histories that I can find out about them so that the next appointment I will be prepared. And there's other reasons why I created a special section in my notebook for my parents, and this is another one of them. My dad loved to tell stories as I was growing up. Unfortunately, I was probably only half listening at the time. So as I sat there beside him in the retirement home, I realized I didn't have much time left to capture all those stories. But I thought, how should I do it? Should I video record him saying stuff, as he's talking, just videotape? Or should I record his audio? Should I type really fast? Well, actually, it didn't take me long to decide. I would do all three. And I would do it, of course, on my phone, what's with me all the time, and in OneNote. Now, you might be thinking, and some of my friends have told me, that they use notes on their phone for such things. Now, when I think of that, and I definitely have tried it, I just think of a chaotic accumulation of notes that I'd have to sift through to find the right one. OneNote is different. It is an app. It's a notes app that you can download onto your phone, and it's free. But it does so much more than just notes. In this case, it's helping me build a legacy notebook. And it's helping me keep those stories alive for my kids and generations to come. Now, speaking of my kids, my youngest daughter found that the first year of university didn't go as planned for her, so she wanted to travel instead. And she picked Australia as that destination that she wanted to go to. I was so excited for her. She was 19 at the time. I thought, what a great opportunity. You can do this. But I had questions. So many questions. So I organized my thoughts and those questions into a new notebook so I didn't have to bombard her with those questions. And as the departure date approached, we learned the answers to my questions and we made a plan for her. And then we actually ended up sharing that notebook because we found that she could use what we had recorded in there for keeping track of her insurance, her places to visit. I had a section on places not to visit, and all kinds of other contact information that could be helpful to her. And throughout her time in Australia, she actually updated that notebook a little bit here and there. This was such a great planning tool for us and a great way for her mom to be informed and maybe a little less worried. So I tell you, OneNote is a place where you don't have to rely on your memory to remember stuff. Just use OneNote. And for anything that you need to research, any kind of information that you need to capture in that way, OneNote is your answer as well. Now that we have this covered, I just have one more area to cover with you, and that is all about how do I keep track of my lists or maybe my other ideas that I have. Well, as someone that teaches for a living, I end up marketing by sharing a lot of content. So I have lots of social media posts that I do, a YouTube channel, and a blog. And I think in the last couple of months alone, I was looking back and seeing that on my 3 Facebook groups, my Facebook page, my LinkedIn page, I had posted somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 posts. So how did I do that? I keep an idea bank in my notebook. And yes, of course, I have a notebook for this called my content management notebook. It not only keeps track of what I want to post about, my topics, my themes, it lets me check off when I've posted it. And it keeps my scripts that I'm going to use on my YouTube channel or the words that I'm going to write on my blog. Everything in one nice, neat place. Now, I don't know about you, but do you ever have that genius idea come to you in the middle of the night? Or maybe you're driving along, or maybe you're in the shower? Well, yeah, I know I do. And this is where I love OneNote for dictating. Now, don't worry, I do dry off before grabbing my phone, but this is where you're supposed to laugh. The only joke I have in here. But when when I dictate, I love the idea of OneNote doing the typing for me. All I have to do is talk into my phone and it types away. So fast. Now let's go personal again. I want you to think to Christmas. Christmas is approaching right now, actually. But at Christmas time in our house, I tend to get a lot of phone calls or texts from my mother-in-law, my sister, and one of my friends. And they're all asking me what to buy my girls for Christmas this year. So to avoid the pain of having to recycle unused clothing or to going to the mall to return stuff after Boxing Day, we decided to start the Christmas wish list. So the girls record all the stuff they want. They give me their sizes, their favorite colors, their favorite stores. You know, in fact, sometimes they give me a picture of what they want. And then in later years, or more recently, they start just sending me the link. Here's the link, Mom. You can just order it off of there. Well, I share this information with others, and then I keep track of who bought what so we can avoid duplication. You might be thinking that's a lot. That's a lot to have in your OneNote, Connie, but this keeps me organized and everybody else around me that much happier. Now, let's take a moment, go back to my parents again for 1 minute, and I'll just let you know that I ended up having to sell their house for them. And so in doing so, I had to clear it out first. So we had a garage sale. Now, if you can imagine, going through 50 plus years, probably more like 60 or 70 plus years of stuff, we came across a lot of unusual items plus antiques. So I'd get on the phone with one of my knowledgeable cousins and I'd ask them about that item, and they would tell me some information about it, or maybe I would research it on the web to find out what it was and how much it was worth and that kind of stuff. And of course, I recorded that in my OneNote. And again, you might be thinking, well, Connie, you can take pictures on your phone. What's the big deal here? The big deal is that I take the picture of that item in my OneNote, and then beside the picture, I write my notes. So that captured the stuff I needed together. Plus, it meant that my pictures area of my phone wasn't being polluted with this random stuff. And I didn't have to scroll for days trying to find that picture that I needed to post on Facebook today. It kept everything in one place. So hopefully you see by now that OneNote is your answer to recording those fantastic ideas you might have or making those lists that you dream up. I'm going to summarize now, and let's take you through some of the things we talked about today. We talked about how OneNote was the place to retrieve information, whether it's the meetings notes that you need to look back to, or the office policies, or maybe your home recipes. OneNote can do it for you. OneNote also is the place to research and remember stuff. Whether it's a speech like I'm doing today, your father's stories, your mom's medication, or maybe your daughter's trip somewhere, OneNote can do it for you. And lastly, OneNote is a great place for you to record your ideas and lists. Who knew that your midnight thoughts could be so organized? And your Christmas shopping so less stressful. So think of OneNote as your new trusty sidekick to help you stay organized, capture your ideas, and share anything like a pro. Now, I want you to go out there and make your life a little bit easier and a lot more fun, and download OneNote. Thank you.